Hallo, og velkommen til webinar. Jeg heter da Håkon Brattland, jobber for Avfall Norge, og dette er et webinar vi har laget sammen med flere aktører, blant annet Brikk og da København kommune. Det har oppstått blitt et initiativ for gjenvinning av bleier. Det er noen som har utviklet teknologi og laget litt system rundt det. Og som da også søker flere partnere for det her. For det er jo så mye av gjenvinningsindustrien for avfall. Du trenger et stort volum, skal du få det til. Så den initiativtakeren og de som har gjennomført selve testene er da hos København kommune. Og så er det da Maria Borstrøm hos Brink, som har jobbet for å få det her til å bli et større prosjekt. Så vi skal i dag først få høre fra Maria, og så fra København, som har selve hovedpresentasjonen. Og så er det viktig å si at man kan stille spørsmål i chatten, og hvis det kommer noe, så tar vi det på slutten. Det er bare å skrive det inn, og så får vi det opp på skjermen, sånn at alle sammen får se. Nå ser jeg vi er sånn rundt 30 stykker inne allerede, som er for så vidt veldig bra i forhold til hva som er påmeldt. Så da tenker jeg egentlig at vi bare kjører i gang, så da kan Maria få komme på scenen her.
Tack så mycket. And I will switch to English just to not get anyone lost in translation. Welcome everyone. This webinar is initiated within the BRINK project, and the BRINK is an abbreviation of Brokering Cross-Border Innovation Through Clusters. And it is a COSME-funded project, and what we do in the project is that we try to be the link between public authorities and help them with innovation and how to get that into procurement, and also tap into the innovative business and ecosystems that are out there, and that we do through our consortia that we have, that I will tell you more about in a bit. What we have is 4 legs to stand on. First of all, we try to tap into unfulfilled needs of public authorities. And this part, we only work with the public authorities, with needs assessment, interviews and workshops. And if any of you out there aren't in the project, there's still room for more. So just get in touch with us. I will write my email in the chat later. What we also do is connect public authorities with similar needs cross-border, and this is why we have this webinar today, because City of Copenhagen just has a need that they want to fulfill, but they need some cross-border connections and cross-border public authorities to work together with. The second leg is that we want to tap into the innovative market, and that we do through scanning innovation of interest from the public authorities, to try to see if there are innovations out there. But we also do market engagement and dialogues through both workshops and RFIs. We also try to help during the tendering process if needed, and that is choosing the right procedure, refining functional demands, or whatever else is needed. Could be translation of tender documents. And we also have a legal help desk within the project. The fourth leg is knowledge sharing and capacity building, and we have a network platform that we work through, where public authorities can talk together amongst themselves, but also with the SMEs in certain needs. We also have a training module that are both for public authorities, for small and medium size enterprises, SMEs, and for the clusters that are actually training or helping public authorities with innovation. We also try to build capacity by helping finding funding if needed. And who are we? We are a team with connections. We are ACR Plus, that is the Association of Cities and Regions for Sustainable Research Management. That is a European network of cities and regions sharing the aim of promoting a sustainable research management and accelerating the transition towards a circular economy. And then we have the lead partner in this consortia, that is Clean in Denmark, which is a national environmental cluster pushing for green transition for Danish companies and connecting them internationally to solve environmental challenges worldwide. From Sweden, we have us, Hållbar Utveckling Skåne, which is a non-profit member organization with members from all sectors. And we work with all Agenda 2030 goals to make the region and beyond sustainable on all fronts. And the final one is Sustainable Business Hub, which is a Swedish cluster for smart, sustainable cities, acting as a platform that bring together private enterprises, academia and public organizations to stimulate green innovation and business development. And together, we do have connections into 97 public authorities, 1,000+ innovators, and 28 universities and research institutes. And that's why we can be that link between public authorities and small and medium-sized enterprises and innovation organizations. Here is my email address, and as I said, I will write it in the chat. If you have any questions during the presentation, please write it in the chat. We will comment there, or we will lift them during a question and answer session at the end of this webinar. And with that, I do want you all to get to know the city of Copenhagen and their need that they want to fill.
Thank you for the opportunity, Håkan and Maja. We're happy to present our diaper recycling project and share our findings regarding a collection trial. I'm Dorte Akker, project manager at the city of Copenhagen, part of the team Circular Economy based in the Department of Climate and Urban Development. I've been working with this project close to 4 months. And my colleague?
Yeah, and hello everyone. My name is Jonas. Been with the city for the past 7 years. Work closely with Dorte on this specific project, and also I lead what we call the Circular Copenhagen Innovation Platform, where we try to initiate new developments relating to circular economy.
And the next slide, please.
Yeah, done.
Okay. Okay, so overall, the city of Copenhagen is investigating in the possibility of starting a scheme for the recycling of used diapers. However, it requires that the used diapers are sorted in separate containers in the yards. We'll dig down into that aspect in a moment. We made a short agenda for this presentation that will take around 30 to 40 minutes. It will cover the potentials for diaper waste, the content of diaper waste, and the collection trial. And then Jonas will take over and cover the environmental issues and the tender procedures. And we'll be happy to take some questions to wrap up this webinar. So let's start the agenda. Many are very reluctant when it comes to recycling of diaper waste. There's no reason for that. Diaper waste contains a large amount of recyclable materials, plastics, and celluloses, which are currently being lost. A diaper contains a large amount of plastics that can be recycled. In addition, celluloses and SAPs, superabsorbent polymers that we'll get back to, can also be recycled, and perhaps eventually also the organic content as well. There's already a collection and recycling of diaper waste in several existing facilities in countries around us, including the Netherlands, Italy, Wales, Belgium, and these are facilities that we are all in contact with. So there's therefore no reason to be skeptical about the idea of recycling diaper waste, quite the opposite. But very brief, the diaper recycling project is included in our current resource and management plan. And to achieve the target in the Circular Copenhagen, it is partially dependent on the establishment of this diaper waste collection scheme. A larger collection attempt was also approved here. Calculating the expenses regarding the implementation of this scheme shows that collection of diaper falls within any other schemes and is still cheaper than, for example, the collection of plastics, and will be either the most expensive or the cheapest scheme that we have. So to sum up, the initiatives here is to recycle diapers is a political priority. We realize that we'll not meet our 70% goal without recycling diapers. And we're not frightened by the gate fee that is higher than incineration. So why diapers? So the potentials are present. There exists a large amount of diaper waste, and the annual potential is up to 12,000 tons. In comparison, there is approximately 17,000 tons of plastic waste annually in the city of Copenhagen. This corresponds to more than 46 million diapers. So these figures are provided from one of the major diaper producers. And in the long term, other disposable products, hygiene products, can also be collected, like sanitary napkins and disposable washcloths and paper underlays. From daycare centers. But if these products are to be included, it must be done in dialogue with the chosen recycler. It is a very uniform fraction, and many already sort at the source, meaning at the diaper changing area, in private home and in daycare centers. And also in the daycare centers, it is estimated that between 1/3 and half of residual waste is diaper waste. At elderly homes and nursing homes there's also a great potential. We have the figures that 6.7 million adult diapers are sold annually. These figures also come from the same company producing adult diapers, in this case, Initiativet. We're targeting the scheme to the customer relationships where the concentration of diaper waste is greatest. And we are supplementing it with the possibility that other citizens also can sign up for the scheme and get a separate container outside their house. So the number of citizens who have children using diapers is quite large. We estimate that 29% of households in Copenhagen have kids using diapers. So what does diaper waste consist of? Here we have the picture of a diaper, and the interesting part is that around 60 to 70% of the content is urine and feces, but the recyclable materials are 7 to 18% of cellulose pulp and 10% of plastic. 85% is PP, polypropylene, and 15% is PE. And there is 4 to 10% of super absorbent polymers. Jonas will get back to them a little later. And then there's glue and plastic band and tape. So there's for sure materials worth recycling. And the current recyclers uses the plastic and cellulose for making several types of products. For example, we've seen cat litter and building materials. We have a citizen survey. I'll briefly add the results from this public survey that the city of Copenhagen did in 2022. We wanted to see how supportive the citizens would be regarding sorting out diaper waste. And the answers indicated that there's a lot of support. The graph shows that there is great willingness to sort out diapers. 67% of the citizens think it's likely or very likely that they will sort. I'll then turn to show you the results from this collection trial. It was conducted from September to December 2022, and it lasted 17 weeks and covered the collection from 11 multi-story buildings, 3 daycare centers, and an area with housing for the elderly. We have tested diaper collection to see how much diaper waste we actually are able to collect and to test the operational part of the diaper collection. So the objective was threefold: to collect data, to analyze the quality of the waste, including the proportion of incorrectly sorted waste, calculate the amount of waste, also to observe and talk to the involved citizens and learn about the willingness to sort out the diaper waste, and of course to look at the working environment and the collection logistics.
If I can just add a bit more, you might be wondering why there's a slide about chickens on this, and it's not a diaper. And that's because the way we see it, it's a chicken and the egg challenge this, that we won't get any treatment solutions unless we start collecting the diaper waste. And on the other hand, we can't really start collecting the diaper waste until there's proper treatment solution in place. So the way that we try to tackle this challenge, which I'm sure that you all are very aware of, because this is a challenge relating to many different waste streams. The way we try to tackle this is by that we did a large-scale collection test to be sure how much waste we could actually collect and what quality, to know also the amount that we could put out to tender.
Yes. So before we show a short movie of the trial, the collection trial, in short, we'll just say that we set out the containers with brown lids, 190 liters in the yards of the multi-story buildings and 660 liters in connection to the daycare centers and the elderly care centers. So in order to ensure good sorting at the source, we also set up an extra bin at the changing area, and we handed out blue plastic bags to the daycare centers in which the diapers could go in if they wanted to. And we handed out a thorough sorting guide. We designed stickers with the purple diaper pictogram and several types of informative posters, all placed inside and outside the buildings, telling the citizens about the trial and where to get more information. So all in all, to make it easy to sort out the diapers. I will now show you a short film. The film is aimed at potential recyclers, but we'd like to show it to you as well, as it gives a good feel of the activities carried out in the collection trial.
Calling all investors and recycling technology suppliers with an interest in diaper recycling. Take part in establishing a citywide collection system for diapers in Copenhagen and help us fortify our position as a frontrunner city for the circular economy. We aim to achieve a 70% recycling rate of municipal solid waste and to triple the amount of direct reuse by the end of 2024. Recycling diapers is a key initiative for us. A trial showed that we can expect to harvest 4,000 to 5,000 tons of used diapers every year starting from 2024. The trial lasted 4 months and was conducted in 11 apartment buildings and 4 nurseries. Dedicated diaper waste bins were placed directly at the households to make it easy to sort the diapers. The diaper waste was analyzed to get an understanding of the purity of the collected waste, as well as what and how much waste was sorted incorrectly. The results were very promising. And now we are ready to make diaper waste recycling a reality. Are you? Contact us for information about the initiative and plans for an upcoming tender.
Okay, yeah. To follow up the statements in the film, I'll tell you a little bit about the data collection that we did around this collection trial. We had 2 consulting firms to help us collect data during the trial. One is Econet, a consulting firm that is specialized in collecting the quantitative data. They did the weight and the volume measurements, as you saw in the film, and they did the analysis of the composition of the diaper waste that was collected. The other consulting firm assisting us in the trial was Naboskab, now called Behave Green. They are specialized in the anthropological aspects of behavioral studies. They did the data collection through interviews, observation, informal talks, and then analyzed the behavior of the citizens involved in the collection trial. They look specifically at sorting behavior and analyze the findings to deliver some specific recommendation for the project. We'll get back to that. So as the film stated, we found the collection efficiency at around 43% in the apartment buildings and up to 85% in the daycare centers, the nurseries. And we estimated after the long data processing, as the film stated, we can collect up to 4,000 to 5,000 tons of diaper waste, maybe more. After the startup, perhaps quickly even more people would start using this scheme. Yeah, the next slide shows the diaper collection during the 17 weeks. Yeah, most interesting besides the potential is that the consulting firm also used the data to calculate the average amount of diapers collected per child per week and the amount calculated in kilos. And actually they found out that the average was 0.92 kilos per week per child in the institutions and up to 1.78 kilos per week per child in the apartment buildings. So from these data, we could estimate that the potential for the collection of diaper waste in Copenhagen is up to these 4,000 to 5,000 tons. Actually, when they looked at the numbers, the average was that one container holds 71 liters of waste, which corresponds to around 18 kilo per container per week. So in total, all the diaper waste that was collected was 7.8 tons during the 17 weeks. It was divided between 3.8 tons from the buildings, the department buildings, and 3.8 tons from the nurseries. It was somewhat less from the homes of the elderly, where we only collected 250 kilos during the weeks, due to some challenges that I'll get back to a little later. As you saw in the film, there was an analysis of the composition of the diaper waste, and there were very few impurities. The consulting firm did a thorough analysis of 1 week's waste, looking into the diaper bags. What we did was allow only diapers for babies and adults, as well as wet wipes. And as they stated, there was only 1% of contamination with projects that we did not allow. So overall, there were very little mis-sorting. We had also asked them to sort out the underlays, aprons, gloves, and poor cloth, which cannot be recycled as easily. However, a small amount of the unwanted materials did enter in the waste bin. They found, for example, as shown in this slide, the foam cloth, disposable gloves, textiles, and some plastics. And the most challenging thing may be there was a lot of poor cloth in the bins, which cannot be recycled as it is made of foamed plastics. So the results from the operational part of the trial, it showed that very briefly, it is not complicated. The standard material can be used for the collection. We used the 190 liters in the outside the buildings, and the 660 liter standard containers were used outside the nurseries. Also, the working environment was not affected during the trial, and it was not considered to be any challenges during the collection. There were no reported smells, and the containers were not difficult to empty, and they did not weigh so much, as I mentioned, only 18 kilos in average. The transport did not cause any problems, and they used the standard compressions in the vehicles. So, and there were overall no complaints from citizens or caretakers. In Danish we say vice versa. They didn't report any problems during this trial. So, regarding communication, to inform well to all the directly involved citizens and the neighbors, the caretakers, the guests, my colleagues did a broad and very thorough job securing that all had the needed knowledge to participate in this collection trial. Mainly around the containers in the yards, posters, stickers, and hangers with bright colors should guide the citizens to the right sorting behavior, as we show here on this slide. Most important was the guide, showed here in the yellow color, that stated what should and what shouldn't be put in these blue plastic bags together with the diaper waste. So the objective was, of course, to make it as easy as possible, but also to make sure that the amount of impurities were limited. And then going to the analysis of the sorting behavior in the families, we had this, as I mentioned, the consulting firm Naboskab. They visited citizens in connection with the collection trial and found out that there were a great support for sorting diapers. It was overall they experienced that it was very simple to sort out the diapers, and something that most people do not see as a challenge, and maybe do also now sort it in a different bin. But a good and well thought out system must be put in place so it's easy to understand how to sort. And it's very important that the diaper waste containers outside are placed close to the places where the citizens normally sort out their waste. And finally, the communication should be so easy to understand that also guests may help out to sort diaper waste when they, for example, visit or are babysitting the kids. Regarding the nurseries, the daycare centers, there was also great support to sort out diapers. The consulting firm visited all three of them. And also here, there was support. There were no reports from the caretakers that it was difficult to sort out the diaper waste. The only tricky thing was actually that they actually wanted to include more disposable products in the diaper waste bin, like cloth and gloves. And they found out there was going a lot of air into the bags, which meant that the bins inside and the containers outside were filled very easily because of the extra air that was in these bags.
Can I add something here?
Yeah.
I just want to emphasize that collection of diapers from daycares and from kids' nurseries is really a low-hanging fruit. And the reason for that is that diaper waste takes up between 1/3 and half of all the waste from these places. So it's not necessary to put out new bins. You can just convert an existing residual waste bin at the same address to diaper waste. And also the people working there are used to treating the diaper waste in not putting it in the same bin. So it's really it's easy to get a hold of large quantities of diaper waste from these places.
The consulting firm did also a diagram of the route of the diaper in all three settings. This slide shows the route of the diaper at the daycare center. It's in Danish, but I'll go through the main steps, the stop points. Looking from the left side, the child with the diaper gets the diaper changed in 3 different places normally. On the changing table, on the floor if it's a quick change, or on a trip, then either the diaper goes into the blue bag or directly in the bin. This is the third stop point. And finally, the diaper goes either in the diaper container or sometimes by mistake in the residual waste, and in some cases also is the diaper goes into the food waste container by mistake because they had the similar brown lid. So the learnings here are that the majority of the personnel in the nurseries, they did sorting very well. 85% of the potential was sorted out in these nurseries. So there's a great potential here. So it was a relatively simple system, but you have to beware of the confusing color of the lids. Yes, then finally the behavior and the sorting behavior in the housing for the elderly. Only one area for the elderly was included in this collection trial, was with approximately 275 smaller homes. The trial met greater challenges in this setting. This is partly because the diaper change at the home of the elderly takes place in many different rooms of the house, and partly because of the care staff have limited time for the waste management. These challenges will probably repeat themselves in nursing homes and residence facilities for the disabled, we imagine. It is absolutely essential that there must be a broad communication to both care staff, relatives and residents regarding the source sorting here of diaper waste and the arrangement of several containers for diaper waste maybe around the house. We have assessed that an effort is needed in collaboration with various administration here at the City of Copenhagen to incorporate diaper sorting into the working routines here, so that some very clear suggestions are given on how home helpers can help get some new easy workflows incorporated, which means that the diaper waste, for example, is collected and carried out to the outside container after, for example, the morning routine. So needed is also clear communication regarding this new procedures and what you should avoid sorting out together with this diaper waste. So another collection trial is needed here in this housing for elderly people. And this was then my part of the presentation, and I'll hand over the word to Jonas.
Thank you, Dorte. So now you heard about why it is we think that it's a good idea to start looking at diaper waste with recycling, and now you've also got a presentation of what we've done in terms of how we can collect the waste. And the conclusion is that it is quite easy to start collecting the diaper waste. The question then becomes what treatment options are out there that are better than what we are already doing with the diaper waste, which in the case of Copenhagen, and I'm sure in your areas as well, is waste incineration with heat and electricity generation. And of course, we've looked into this. We've had an ongoing dialogue with 8 to 10 technology providers that we have found worldwide. We're looking at a market that is still developing. It's not a mature market yet. We are getting there. More and more facilities are coming, and there are several market players, but it's still a maturing market. I've listed some of the existing technology providers here just to provide you with a kind of a small taste of the different types of companies that are there, both in Europe and outside of Europe, in North America and in Asia, and so pretty much worldwide. We also have different approaches for the diaper recycling. Some companies, they look at recycling for first and foremost the plastics and the superabsorbent polymers, whereas at least one other company has its business case developed around composting. What we can say is that almost all companies recycle the plastics to high quality, and most also look at the cellulose fibers and the SAPs. A minimum requirement for us, of course, is that a treatment solution should be better in terms of environmental footprint in comparison to waste incineration here in Copenhagen. So we've started to look at the available LCA studies that are out there. There's not one single LCA study that can describe all of the different technologies, of course, so we would have to evaluate each one of them. But we have looked into several of these LCA studies that are behind the technologies and evaluated them with our own model. We have gotten our own calculation model that's made by a big consultancy company, COVI, which and that is based on the EastTech platform. There's a link here on the slides that we'll share with you afterwards if you want to look into it yourselves. The idea is both to be able to give us a complete overview of the life cycle, diaper waste, recycling, collection and recycling, but also to be able to tell about specifically the weight of the transport in the overall environmental, you can say, picture from diaper recycling. And then this specific table, this specific example that we've used here, we have calculated with a technology in Netherlands, transportation of the diaper waste from Copenhagen, so that's 765 kilometers in diesel truck. And we have compared that scenario with waste incineration in Copenhagen and with the Danish electricity composition and all that. And from that, we see that we get a CO2 saving of approximately half ton CO2 per ton diaper waste. That's one thing. The other thing we see is that if we were to transport it this distance, that the share of the transportation would be approximately 11% of the, you can say, the environmental gains would be eaten up by the transportation. So this shows, as we already know, that transportation in general is not the issue that makes the environmental case fall to the ground at all, but it's still important, of course, and we do not aim for a scenario where we will transport the diapers all over Europe. We want to have a facility somewhere close to here, but it doesn't have to be exactly in our backyard. Another LCA study here that with a source, so you can look at it yourselves, shows more or less the same, that there will be a saving of approximately half a ton CO2 per ton of diaper waste in comparison to, in this case, waste incineration in the Netherlands. And for those of you out there who might think that diaper waste is a really fantastic fraction to incinerate, we have to disappoint you a bit as well, because the calorific value of diaper waste is actually lower than the average calorific value of the waste that's incinerated. So it's not that we take the nice part of the waste incineration out. A few words about the superabsorbent polymers, because this is a large quantity of the diaper waste. I think it was approximately 10%. And this is a material that we weren't really used to dealing with. We didn't know a lot about when we started out the project. This is the material that basically absorbs the moisture in the diapers, so making sure that the kids have, you can say, dry butts. This is a material that can suck up to 1,000 times its own weight in moisture. It's also, per definition, microplastics, and there's very little knowledge out there regarding the degradability of this. And of course, our concern was what happens with this material in the treatment processes, and is there a risk that this material ends up in a product or in a output stream that goes eventually into agricultural soil. We have hired the Danish Technological Institute to look specifically into this, and there is a report on the way, which gives quite a good overview. And we can share that in approximately 2 or 3 weeks, or at least parts of it. Okay, so where are we now, and how might you help us? We are right now in the beginning of a tender procedure. The plan is to start a tender for the service of diaper waste recycling. So we want to find a private company that can provide us with the recycling solution that we want for the diaper waste that we collect. The plan is to have a final, the plan is to have to publish the tender in September or October, and to find the final winner in the beginning of the new year. And that means that right now we are developing the tender material, and the plan is to put that up for a public hearing, so that everyone, all the technology providers as well, can have a look at the main criteria that we set and the different economic measurement tools that we put into the tender material. And then we'll have market dialogues specifically with all the potential investors and technology providers during June and August to sharpen the final tender material that we'll then publish in September or October. Hopefully this will help us find the right solution. But we are also aware that there is quite a big risk associated to investment in a new facility. It would be the first facility in our parts in the Nordic region. And of course it takes, there's some risk related to being a first mover. We try to mitigate these risks as best we can in the tender material, and we'll see what happens. Then in parallel process to this, we are having a political process here in Copenhagen right now, with a decision expected in beginning of August on what type of collection scheme we'll implement once the treatment solution is in place. What we would really be interested in from you guys would be a letter of intent. We, as I said, there's some risk related to investing in diaper waste recycling when you have to be a first mover. And we expect that the potential investors will be looking at the readiness, you can say, of the market in our parts of in our region here, in the Nordic region I'm talking about now. Because of course the diaper waste from Copenhagen, we can collect 4,000 to 5,000 tons. That's quite an okay amount, and we know that the technology providers out there, technologies and facilities usually want to have a minimum of 5,000 tons for making a business case, but it's a better business case if it's 10,000 tons or 15,000 tons, as you know. So part of the evaluation of whether or not to invest in our parts of the world is also to have a feeling about the readiness to start collecting diaper waste for recycling. We had the idea to provide some type of input relating to this via these letters of intent. They would be non-binding, saying that basically, if there is treatment capacity that is environmentally preferable in our parts of the region, we would be interested in looking into diaper waste collection. The idea would be to send it to central waste collectors in southern Sweden, Norway, and hopefully some of you would be interested in signing. As I say, it's a non-binding. It's just you can say, expression of interest. It would be included in the appendices of the tender that we will publish, and it will hopefully provide some kind of sense of the readiness of other stakeholders than City of Copenhagen relating to a collection of diaper waste. And I know Maya will help us spread the word out with this. And finally, we just want to say that you can always reach out to us if you have any questions, or if you want to hear more. We do have a lot of specific knowledge about this topic now, and there's no reason for you guys to kind of invent the same thing again. We should try to build on each other's knowledge, and we spend quite a lot of resources on this, and we are very willing to share the experience that we have. So you're always welcome to reach out to us, and you can also find more information on our website, which has a link here. That was the presentation. We left approximately 10 minutes for if there were some questions. We'll take them in the chat, and we'll try to answer as best we can. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, let's see. We have some questions in the chat. Some of them are regarding. There's a few regarding the if you have had any discussions with the producers of diapers and considering biodegradable diapers, or if you have had in contact with them using different kind of glues or sustainable materials to help with this. So what can you say about that?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have an ongoing dialogue with both SAT from Sweden that has a big market share, and also Abena, which is a very big stakeholder here in Denmark. We also have connections to Procter & Gamble. So we do have the ongoing dialogue with the producers. And we also have quite a good feeling about their view. Most of them are following this market development very closely, because of course it's a game changer for them once you can start recycling their products, and they are very willing to start, or they are very eager to start demanding some of these materials back, so we can have a more circular value chain. But there's still some way to go before we are there. We have also looked into the biodegradable diapers. We're actually running right now a test with compostable diapers in 3 kindergartens as well. We didn't include any slides about this. We see that there are still no fully compostable diapers on the market, but they will be on the market within the next year or two. They're just about to get out then. We know that several of the technology providers, their technology can easily handle the compostable diapers. So that's okay. For some of the technology providers, it might be a challenge if we have part of the waste stream being compostable diapers, part of the waste stream being conventional diapers. That poses a challenge. For the results so far from the test of the compostable diapers, we've only done the test in the kindergartens, and that was out of 3 kindergartens, 2 of them completed the test. The last one thought that it was that the comfort that the diapers presented was just not completely there yet. So we are right. It's not, the product is not as comfortable as a conventional diaper, but it is fully compostable, and it's also certified as such under EU certification scheme. We are running a composting test starting actually this week, and that takes a few months. The results will be there just after the summer break. We'll share them as well, of course. And we'll look into the quality of the compost, and if there are any materials in the compost that should not be there.
Perfect. That was a very thorough answer to a lot of the questions actually asked here. There's a question that is a smaller part of the project you did. How come you didn't include single family homes in the trial?
Yeah, also a very good question. In Copenhagen, we have 90% apartment buildings, 10% single family homes. So that's the context. And we also know that it's a lot easier to make people in single family homes sort waste. So kind of the approach that we have is that if we can collect from apartment buildings, we can also collect from single family homes. The way that we'll organize the collection is that it will be mandatory for all apartment complexes where there are at least 6 kids in the diaper age 0 to 3 years. We have data about this, where the kids are in the city. And then for all the single family homes, it will be a voluntary scheme, kind of a service that we can provide to the new families. And it will be presented as a service because they have very limited capacity, very small bins for residual waste. And when you are a family with a diaper using baby, you have suddenly a huge amount of residual waste. So single family homes will definitely be included in the waste collection scheme, but we simply don't expect that it will pose any specific challenges.
Thank you. And then we have the question, do you think or consider that obligatory separating a collection of diapers in Denmark will be in the near future? I guess that's what you're aiming for, right?
Yeah, that sounds more like it's a question that's difficult for us to answer because that's about politics. But my feeling is that we are not looking at the near future because right now we've mandatory requirements for collection of 10 different waste streams directly at the households in all municipalities throughout the country, and several municipalities are still struggling with implementing these requirements. So introducing an 11th mandatory stream, I think it won't happen within the next couple of years, I think, is my feeling. But of course, you never know. But then on the other hand, you can say that if you want to reach the recycling targets that are set basically by the European Union, at least for bigger cities where you have a lot of high-rise buildings, it's very difficult to reach these targets only by implementing collection of the standard waste streams. Diaper waste might be key here because it's a big waste stream and it weighs a lot basically. So you can really move some material into recycling.
Thank you. There was only 43% of the collection from the households that was collected from the households. Do you have any thoughts about how to increase that collection?
Yeah, fantastic. When you say only, we say, whoa, that's fantastic. But because again, we have 90% apartment buildings, and we simply don't, for instance, for plastics, we collect approximately 28% of the potential. It's just, and if we look solely at the single family households, we would probably have a much higher collection efficiency. It's very difficult to get source separation and everyone participating in that when you have so many people living in high-rise buildings. So we think actually that 43% is a really good start, and remember that this is only for a 3-month period, and all through the test, the quantities kept rising, so we would probably end up even higher than that. I think that's a good start basically, and we reached also more than 80%, 85% from the daycares, which is really good. So we don't see it the same way. Of course, there's room for improvement, but we think that we are really off to a good start.
I think so too. That's why I tried to do some funny airs on that one, but you're doing a great job. There's a question about the establishments already in use in the Netherlands and Wales. Do any of them limit collection from institutions, daycare centers or care homes?
No, as far as we know, they don't. But we don't know any of them that have a large part of their input material come from elderly homes. And I think that has to do with also some of the results that Dorte presented, that it's just a bit more difficult to implement collection from elderly care homes because of the way that the different everyday practices are organized in these places. But I think that the input from daycares is it's a good input for all the facilities out there. It's very easy and it's very doesn't have a lot of impurities, and it's all from kids, so you don't have to worry about. That's one thing we didn't mention a lot about, but there's an issue relating to wastewater treatment, especially the high amount of elderly diapers you get in. You would risk having medicinal residues in the wastewater, and that of course puts requirements to the wastewater treatment from the treatment facility.
Thank you. Is there any work to promote cloth diapers in private households, or try to shorten the time that child use diapers? A little side question. You have to unmute again.
Okay, now Sandra. Another very good question, I would say. The short answer is that within the waste management plan, there's no, we won't be working with this, and that's has to do with we are not allowed to spend waste taxation money on issues relating to things that are not waste. But what we are doing right now is developing the new climate plan, which will be based on scope 3 emission targets. And that includes, waste generation, consumption behavior, and all that. And I'm sure that that diaper waste will also be included in this plan, because there's a lot to be gained from this. We see that the kids are using diapers for a longer and longer period of time. So of course, information campaigns about how kids can be diaper free and all this would be a good approach as well. And we know that there are, for instance, in Amsterdam, I think in other Dutch municipalities as well, they are working with these types of initiatives.
Thank you. I have one comment and one last question. We have a comment that in Belgium, they propose a producer responsibility in order to finance the separate collection and recycling process, and that is at this moment this is a political issue. And we also have the last question is I was also wondering about the producer responsibility, which is a part of that. They should pay the price for recycling their products. Do you have any comments on that? A last comment?
Yeah, I mean, that would be fantastic. As far as I know, there's no mandatory producer responsibility scheme for diaper waste coming from the European legislation. So it would have to be a voluntary producer responsibility scheme, which would be fantastic if someone would help the industry to set that up. And the thing is that it's actually it's only a few very big stakeholders that would have to agree on setting up a joint organization. We would welcome an initiative like that, but I mean, it kind of falls outside of the scope of what we are mandated to work with here in the city of Copenhagen. So
yeah. Thank you so much. And with that, the hour is struck at 10 o'clock. So we want to thank everyone for listening. I hope it's okay for the city of Copenhagen that we can send out your presentation afterwards. Yeah, we have notes for that. So we will send out the presentations, and in that presentation, you will also get the email addresses to Dorte and Jonas that you can use to, if you're interested or if you want to have this letter of intent that they have. Håkon.
Thank you. That's very, very interesting and a very nice webinar. Hopefully there will be some interest also from the Norwegian actors later.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for listening, and bye.